Everybody, and welcome to this week's UTC Assembly. Let's start with some notices and updates. A reminder that on exam results days, we will be accepting students in the building. There will be strict procedures in place, and we would encourage students who are going elsewhere for the sixth form studies to have their results emailed to them. Also, if you're thinking that someone else is going to collect your results, parents, grandparents, then we also need formal notification of that, please. Could you contact Mrs. Hughes-Martin, so that's Lucy Hughes-Martin at utc-silverstone.co.uk. Oh, September! The government information has arrived, all 18,000 words of it. And we are working very hard on the procedures to ensure that we open safely to everybody in September. I'll make it clear now, there will be many changes, and it will be the responsibility of all of us to adhere to these with no arguments and no fuss. This will be the new normal. There will be more details. They will be coming out in due course, but we need to walk through all of the things we're proposing to make sure that they work in real life. You'll already be aware, I've mentioned before, that sharing basic equipment will not be possible. So start collecting your basics now. Make sure you've got your pens, your pencil, your nice pencil case, rulers, rubbers, calculator, scissors, glue stick, and please will you add a packet of tissues and hand sanitizer to that kit. Now, this is a very interesting one. The press at the moment is starting to talk as if the country could end up in a recession, i.e. with a number of unemployed, that's similar to the 80s. As someone who left school and university in the 80s, I certainly know what it was like. And this is where I'm going to talk about your future. It could be year 10s, it could be year 12s, but what you need to be working on is maximising your CV. So thinking about what else you can do to make your CV stand out. Certainly if there's a lot of unemployed, you're going to be competing with more people for the job you want. So the information that came out to year 12 about the engineering summer school, I'd advise quite a lot of you, if you can, to do that or think about doing that. Okay, really, really key. What else are you doing to maximise your CV? Year 10s, have you completed your PSHCE course from Eton X? Year 12, have you done that? Look really, really good. And have you completed any other free online courses? There are huge numbers of them. You really need to think about the long term, not just the short term. Okay, let's look at this question that we had a few weeks ago about the new normal. A few weeks ago, were people feeling ready for the new normal? One person saying, no, I feel it's too early to ease restrictions, and they're worried about COVID coming back. On the other side, I feel that the pandemic has already changed us, so we're going to adapt to these new changes. Also, I don't think the rules are going to change too much. People will be responsible. That is the key word. I really, really hope that people are responsible and think about their impact and think about the spread of this virus. Now, what's this week's question? Interesting one. Do we underestimate the influence of conspiracy theories? So why are we talking about this? Well, this is fascinating. A study from Oxford University found the following. 60% of those people that they questioned, adults, believed that to some extent the government is misleading the public about the cause of coronavirus. Really interesting. 40% believe that to some extent the spread of the virus is a deliberate attempt by powerful people to gain control. I'm getting more worried here. And 20% believe that to some extent the virus is a hoax. Now that shocks me, and I feel really quite upset about people believing that, when so many families have suffered, not only in this country, but also globally because of this virus. Now, conspiracy theories are nothing new. But history has shown us that pandemics and tragic events encourage the spread of misinformation, and the coronavirus seems to be no different. So today we're going to look at the reasons why conspiracy theories seem to be becoming more mainstream and the influence that they have had in our society. So, seeing is believing. I'm not going to play the little clip. You can play it at home if you want to. But for many people, conspiracy theories offer an alternative truth, possibly because they feel the answers provided aren't good enough, aren't detailed enough. For others, conspiracy groups offer a sense of community and also superiority. They feel they know something that other people don't. This often means that even in the face of overwhelming evidence, theorists will often still cling to their beliefs and go to extreme measures to prove that they're right, which can come at a cost to themselves and to others. Let's look at examples of this. So, in 2021, 20 children were killed in a mass shooting at Sandy Hook Primary School in America. Within months, conspiracy theorists had decided that these deaths had never happened, that these children had never existed, and the suffering families were crisis actors. Lenny Posner's son, Noah, was the youngest victim at just 6 years old. And after speaking out to defend his son in the hope that they would stop harassing us and defacing photos of Noah, he received death threats and had to move several times as hoaxers would find and publish his address online. In 2019, Posner successfully sued Alex Jones, and we're going to hear that name again in a minute, for $100,000 for promoting these lies on his show, InfoWars. Jones has since acknowledged that the Sandy Hook killings did happen. Now, we're going to hear that name again. In 2016, a conspiracy was born which suggested Hillary Clinton was running a pedophilia ring in a basement of a pizzeria in Washington. The restaurant owner, James Altanis, found himself being dragged into the Pizzagate conspiracy. Here we go, here's that name again. On his show, InfoWars, Alex Jones told thousands of his listeners to go and investigate it for yourselves. So people went to the Altanis house and restaurant, harassing him and his staff. And in December, Edgar Welsh bursts into the pizza restaurant armed with 3 guns to rescue the children. Welsh was sentenced to 4 years in prison, and during an interview in jail, he acknowledged that the information he received wasn't 100%. Alex Jones eventually apologized for promoting these ideas, although Altanis felt the damage to both his life and his business was already done. And I'll say at this point, I think, how many times have I talked in assemblies previously about how do you know that something's true? What checks do you personally put in to check that what you're seeing, what you're listening to, what you're reading is true? Not just believe the first thing that comes to you on your phone. Now here's the recent one. This year, conspiracy theorists surrounding coronavirus have also caused issues globally, with some people believing it's caused by 5G internet and others suggesting that world leaders already have a cure and that it isn't real at all. Now, admittedly, 5G was released in 2019, around the same time that the coronavirus occurred. Many decided the two were connected, despite the fact, biologically, scientifically, it is impossible. Over 50 telecommunication towers were burnt down and phone lines were cut down around the UK, leaving many people without internet or phone connections. Most of the towers that were burnt down were actually 3G or 4G, so it shows what people really know, that they do not. They just do their research, they just take things at face value. And they weren't 5G because 5G is in so few areas. As well as this, studies have shown that people who believe conspiracy theories around coronavirus are less likely to follow social distancing rules or accept a vaccine when it's made available, which means it will take longer to get the virus under control. Again, it's all of this question of all of us as individuals questioning what we read, questioning what we hear, and making sure that we know without doubt that it is true, and checking for ourselves. So, are we, as a race of people, easily influenced? Do we just believe what comes on our phone or what comes on the news? Or do we ask the questions and check? I hope that having heard about this, it'll just make us all rethink and check what's the first thing we read on our phones or on the news or in the papers. So here's the yeses and nos. Do we underestimate the influence of conspiracy theories? Yes. Many people just dismiss conspiracy theories as crazy when it's actually more complex than that. There are people who believe these theories, then we realise there's more of them, showing how influential they are. Are they? The influence people like Alex Jones have over their followers show how powerful these theories can be. No? Although the internet makes it easy for theories to spread, it also allows us to be more critical. So it allows us to check. In the past, we may have been too dismissive of the conspiracies, but I think recent events have opened our eyes to their influence, helped us see the influence they are having and how detrimental that influence can be. We know how influential conspiracies are. There just isn't much we can do about it. I think, as the future generation, are continuing to ask the question why and checking. We can do things about it, and we must do things about it. I'd encourage you to discuss this with your family, see what people think, and if you like, to actually vote online. Thank you very much for listening to this week's assembly. Okay, and I hope the updates and information have been useful.